So Dan, tell us, you grew up on this land.
Yes. My parents bought it about in 1972, and so we grew up here. And when my parents died, we moved into here and started growing mushrooms.
Grandpa was a gunsmith. Explain this to people.
Okay, my dad was a gunsmith. A lot of the locals, this is a big area for deer hunting, and so hunting it in general. So they would bring their guns over, and he would fix them and put sights and scopes and do repairs on them. And he was well known through the area, and that was kind of his trade.
This was not like a rich family. Like we were like real country, Wisconsin.
Very country. Here around the neighborhood, people hunted to provide food. Very poor. We didn't have an indoor bathroom for years. And so it was a very poor area where people just hunted to provide food for their family.
Okay, let's start the tour.
Sure.
Because I want people to see what you're doing here, but first we're gonna see the guns.
Okay, we've got a few old guns. I'll turn some lights on here.
Yes, I have so many memories of being in this shop. This is where, tell people about this place.
Well, this is where my dad used to fix guns. It's kind of a mess now here. He died several years ago, but so we have a few guns here, and there's a few old, if you look back in there's a few old guns, relics that are back there. So,
and these are guns that are like 100 years old?
Oh, some of them are probably pretty close to 100 years old. Just parts guns and leftovers from when my dad...
A lot of deer antlers.
Oh, deer antlers, yes, lots of deer antlers.
From what I remember, my grandfather, he one time counted how many deer he killed in his lifetime. He made like a journal, right? And how many was it?
Oh, he in the hundreds. I don't know the exact number, but probably around 200 deer. It was every year we would just, like I say, we shot deer for food. And so I think he killed around 200 deer, and we ate them all. And we weren't big trophy hunters, but just mainly for meat.
Yeah, I mean, because people in Poland, there are deer in Poland, right? But people, I think, do not understand the scale of how many deer there are in Wisconsin.
Right. Right now especially, there's a lot of deer. You have to really watch where you drive because you can hit them with cars. And a lot of the people around here hunt the big trophy, big bucks. But so the does and the deer population has just exploded. It's almost a nuisance now.
Okay, so this gives people what was happening here for many, many decades.
Yep.
And now, give people some context, because like when I knew you, you never grew mushrooms, never did anything like this. And this is a thing that started what, like 10 years ago?
About 8 to 9 years ago, we started growing mushrooms. I was looking for something to do when I retired. And my neighbor, he said, have you ever thought of growing mushrooms? I'm like, no. But we started selling mushrooms to high-end restaurants in Milwaukee.
Okay. And this is some sort of a mushroom machine that you have here?
This is just a cooler.
Okay.
And then this is another cooler where it's pretty empty now because we shipped yesterday.
To są lodówki, gdzie się trzyma grzyby.
Just a small cooler, just a small little cooler that we made to keep the mushrooms cold.
Tutaj się trzyma po prostu grzyby, żeby zachowały świeżość jak najdłużej i chłodnie.
It's pretty much empty now because we shipped yesterday.
Wczoraj był akurat wywózka zbiorów, więc jest prawie pusta.
After 8 years of doing this, how many mushrooms are you producing? And maybe tell us which types of mushrooms?
Sure. Mainly what we grow now is we grow several types of oyster mushrooms or pleurotus. We have pink oyster mushrooms, we have yellow oyster mushrooms, and just the basic white oyster mushrooms as well. And then also shiitakes, lion's mane, we do some chestnut mushrooms. We grow probably about 50 pounds a week and pretty much sell exclusively at farmers markets in various towns and cities during the week, and usually Saturdays are our big day. And
you know, in Poland, many people just do foraging in the forest, and we're here in Wisconsin. You're surrounded by forests. Can you explain why is there no mushroom foraging culture here?
In the United States, what it is it's been for years people assumed that if they ate a wild mushroom, they would die. And so foraging is getting a lot more popular now, but it's just way behind like countries like Poland because of that fear. People weren't brought up with picking wild mushrooms. A lot of people still like, oh, they're totally terrified that if they eat one, they will die.
And I'm seeing a lot of hay here, and then you have these like plastic bags with stuff in it. Like, can you maybe give people who have no idea
Sure.
how a mushroom is grown? Like, give us the really basic steps.
Okay, we grow oyster mushrooms on straw. So you can see I didn't clean up. It's just leftover straw. I fill this up with water and I soak my straw in this here and I heat this water up to about 160 degrees for a few hours. We crank it up, lift it up, let it drip here. I dump the straw out on this little table here. I spray it down with alcohol and then we take the straw and I stuff it into the bags and I mix in, can I grab a bag of what we call spawn? Can I grab that out of here?
Okay.
Sure.
This is what they call spawn. So I take the spawn and I put it into the bowl here with my straw laying here. And I take a plastic bag, like an empty plastic bag, and I set it here. I take a handful of straw, put it in, take a handful of this and put it on top, put a handful straw, handful of this till it gets full. I push it down, tie it, and then I poke.
We poke holes, right?
Yep, I take an arrow, poke holes,
Małe dziurki.
and spin it like that.
That's just a hunting arrow.
That's just a
right?
hunting arrow. Yep, poke holes,
Dziurki, dziurki, dziurki.
and
But how do you know when it's enough holes?
I just do about every 5-6 inches.
Okay.
So a bag like this here, I'll put like about 19 holes in it.
Okay.
Około 20 dziurek, 19-20 dziurek w takiej torebce.
Okay, after I put the holes in it, then I take them over here
Uh-huh.
Zabieramy je.
and I use different size bags sometimes. So I go in this room, and a lot of them are big rooms. Those I put them in what we call like an incubator room where it's dark and warm. Yep, it's generally about 70-75 degrees Fahrenheit.
So like,
Ale jest cały czas ciemno. It's all the dark, right? All the
Yep.
time.
because they
dark,
grow
yep.
better when it's dark?
Yep, they start out growing in the dark for about a week or so, or a week and a half in the dark.
Okej, czyli przez ponad tydzień, 1,5 tygodnia są sobie w ciemności i w ciepełku.
Okay, and then after about a week and a half, I take those bags out
A potem je zabieramy i przenosimy
and I bring them
do innego pomieszczenia.
in here.
Oh. Oh, here we go. This is where the action really happens.
Yes, and so I bring them in here.
Uh-huh.
To są boczniaki. These are the
These
oyster?
are oysters.
Oyster,
Yep.
yeah.
These are all oysters,
So these are the pink oysters.
pink and yellow.
Okay.
So I take them out of that dark room, and after about a week and a half, and I put them in here, and I add light, humidity, and then I generally get it a little bit cooler in here. And then we add some air for ventilation, and it usually takes from the time that I poke the holes in to the time that's here. It's usually about 3 weeks.
Okej, czyli 3 tygodnie od czasu, kiedy zrobiliśmy dziurkę, czyli od początku do grzyba, który się zbiera już na koniec, około 3 tygodni.
Everyone has a date on it,
Yep,
right?
everyone has a date. They will give more than one harvest, so after 3 weeks, then if you let them go for another 2 weeks, they'll give another harvest.
Wow. And you're doing this on a scale that you are earning like good income from this?
Generally, like at the farmers markets in the summers now, we sell maybe $2,000 to $2,500 a week of mushrooms.
And what about your costs? Like, because you have to pay for electricity and do all the stuff.
The costs vary a little bit, but generally we have probably about 25 to 30% cost in producing them, varying.
Tell me, why would a person go to a farmer's market to buy these from you when they could buy similar mushrooms in the store? What's the difference?
Well, generally speaking, the The oyster mushrooms, in most places you can't buy them in stores here because they have a shorter shelf life. So you have to produce them and take them to the farmer's market, you know, or to the market quickly within a week or so.
Because how can you know if it's like doing well or not?
Because basically you just look to see how mature the caps are, and when they start to, like, if they start to lose their color or the caps start to turn up, then I know that they're mature. So we like to get them just before they start to over mature. See, like these, we'll pick these today later on. When the caps are down, when they go, see the difference? See, these are starting to turn up. So these are definitely mature. These should be picked. Where these here, I like to get them when they're more, see the difference in the cap? Mm-hmm. See, these are like perfect. Some of them, when they start going up, they're still good to eat, but they're overly mature.
Right. And you're eating these like in soups or just like frying them on a frying pan?
Yep.
And
soups with meats, put them on pizza, with eggs. Oyster mushrooms are a very versatile mushroom. You can put them with just about anything. They're good with everything.
wow. And so are you trying to build a, you know, organic mushroom empire here in Wisconsin?
No, not really. My wife and I are getting older. If we'd have started younger, but I encourage people to get into it because it seems like the market is really growing. But we're like, oh, we're happy to do what we can now. But if we were younger, we would.
And are you aware of other people in the region who are doing the same kind of thing as you?
Yes, there's getting more and more people that are getting into mushroom growing. In fact, we encourage people to, and we kind of help them out and just, you know, like if you want to get into it, whether it's just to grow for yourself or to sell, we always like, hey, take my card, call me, we'll help you get into it.
Everything you learn is, you didn't like go to school or anything to learn any of this stuff. This is all like YouTube, learning from other people.
Yes, I got into by reading books because there wasn't anybody that I knew that grew mushrooms, so I started reading, and now you can go on YouTube and there will be guys with, you know, showing you how to grow them, but a lot of it is you make mistakes. If you can grow mushrooms, you can grow mold.
And I think that my fans are probably gonna wonder, like, are there any sort of like legal regulations connected with this? Like, I mean, you could be selling people anything. I mean, you're just growing this out of your house. Do people come and like check the way you're growing this stuff?
There haven't been any regulations so far. The biggest thing is when we sell them at farmers markets, we're allowed to basically make one cut. We pick them off the bag and then we can sell them. We can't cut them up. We can't do anything.
Okay, so you're saying that like you bring the whole bag to the market?
No, we can.
Those flowers, right?
Yeah, that's what we can do with them. That's the extent. Now we can trim them a little, we do, but it's just one. You pick them, and that's how
It's like a flower.
Right.
Like a flower. See, and I think that's a part of like how mushroom growing in the United States is still very primitive, because it's just getting popular, foraging and growing. So we're kind of in the infant state of mushrooms. This is a small room where we do shiitakes.
Tutaj będziemy pokazać, gdzie rosną grzyby shiitake, czyli inna chłodnia.
So this is the room with the shiitakes.
Shiitakes and a few lion's mane over there.
Okay, and which ones are the most profitable mushrooms in your opinion?
Które najlepiej się sprzedają i są najdroższe?
Probably the lion's mane are getting more popular because a lot of vegans and vegetarians eat them, and they also are good for your brain, the medicinal side too.
Because these are even other ones, no?
Yeah,
These
those are
ones.
old. Okay, this is a chestnut. These we just picked yesterday, so I've got some small. That's a chestnut mushroom.
Which one is your personal favorite?
Który jest twój ulubiony?
I actually like the oyster mushrooms in the other room. Those are my favorite. Other than that, I like the shiitakes too.
What is this? It's not the same thing as with the thing with the hay.
This is made of sawdust blocks that we have to, where the straw, we pasteurize it in hot water. These I have to put in pressure cookers.
And this one is the same, but it's like in a bag?
Yep, this is the same, it's sawdust, but the lion's mane we leave in the bag and poke holes. The shiitakes, we take the bag off.
In order to do this kind of operation, there's got to be a lot of mistakes and like spoiled mushrooms and...
Yes, through the 8 or 9 years we've been doing this here, and that's part of it, is a learning. You make a lot of mistakes. A lot of guys start growing mushrooms and they quit because they have contamination, they have failure, but you just have to keep at it, and you learn and talk to other people and learn from your mistakes. But a lot of mistakes.
But what are the most common mistakes that would ruin the process?
The most common thing is getting mold. Getting mold into bags, because mold is a fungus and so are mushrooms. And so if you can grow mold, you can grow mushrooms, or vice versa.
Uncle Dan, can you tell the people, how can they find out more about what you're doing? Do you have like a Facebook or a web page or something?
Yes, we have a Facebook page. It's Back 40 Mushroom and Forage on Facebook, and so you can go to us there and like us and follow us, and that would be awesome.
Yes, and you are at the farmers market every week?
Yep.
In central Wisconsin?
Yes, yes.
What's the town where the farmers market happens?
Each week we're in Wausau, Neenah, Weston, and Greenville.
Wow, so you get around.
Yes, I do.
I mean, thank you, Dan, for the tour. It was phenomenal. It's great to be back here.
It's great to have you here. It's good to see you again.